That's Sodapup.
Hello, and welcome to the Sodapup Enrichment Lab podcast, where we speak to experts, authors, practitioners, and brands about canine enrichment practices. Join us as we learn from our guests how to help our dogs lead a happier, healthier, and more enriched life. And now, here's your host, Chris Chandler.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of the Enrichment Lab by Sodapup. Today we have Sanne Romijn. Is that right? Can you say your name for me? Romijn. Sanne Romijn. Thank you. So Sanne lives in the Netherlands, and I'm going to let her talk a little bit more about specifically where she lives, but we are welcoming her today. She is an enrichment content creator and enrichment guide for us today. She has a blog about dogs and dog enrichment and photography, and then she's also a dog photographer. So welcome, and thank you so much for being here today. Thank you
for inviting me.
Yeah. Can you just start out by telling us a little bit about where you live, and then tell us about your dogs and how many, because I think that you are rich in dogs.
Yeah, I am. Well, I'm from a really tiny village in the Netherlands, in the southern part of the Netherlands. It's even for Dutch people, it's sometimes they can't even pronounce it. But I'm from Oltensplaat. I won't ask you to repeat it.
Thank you.
It's a really tiny village. You can walk around it in less than an hour.
Is that where did you grow up there, or?
No. We moved here about 6 years ago. We wanted to. We were living in a city, and in a Dutch city. Which is, I believe, to American standards, is still a village, still a tiny village. But for us, it was a big city, and I wanted more space, more space for the dogs, more space for myself.
Yeah.
So we moved out of the city and into this tiny village, and we're loving it here.
That's great.
And we have quite a few dogs.
How many dogs do you have? I think I know that you have 5. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
5 Labradors, all relatives. We have the oldest, and then we have,
See a little head back there. So this is also going to be a video. So we're happy to see dogs as well. So who is that? Who?
This one is Freya.
Freya.
The other one is her daughter, Idun. And then right before, can't see her. There she is in the bottom here.
Oh, yeah. Chocolate.
No, she is Fox Red.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
That's Harriet. And then we have and Skadi. And they're all relatives. We started with sorry.
How old are they all?
Is 11 years old. She was my first dog. And our first Labrador. And I was one of those people who said, I want to breed and I want to have puppies as well. And the breeder said, well, we'll see. But here they are. We bred 2 litters with her. And Freya's from the first litter, Skadi from the second. And then we have Idun, who's a daughter of Freya. And then Harriet is Idun's daughter. So they're all 4 generations.
And so the 11 years old, and then...
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Freya is almost 9 years old. Skadi is 7 years old. Idun is 5 years old. And Harriet is almost 3 years old.
Wow. So about 2 years apart for them all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You have a busy household then.
Yeah, we do.
So can you tell us how you got started with enrichment?
It's quite a while ago. It started when was our only dog. And it started with that other brand, which I won't name. At the time, that was the only option available in the shops here in Holland.
Yeah.
And we wanted to give her something to do whenever I was at work. She used to go with me to my photo studio. Um, and when I had a photo shoot, she was in the back, and she needed something to do. So that's how I started doing enrichment, to keep her busy at times when I couldn't keep her busy myself.
Yeah.
And from there, it kind of exploded.
What were the first kinds of things that you did, and then how did it progress for you?
The first things were really, really easy stuff, just peanut butter in something,
Right.
in a toy. And then from there, we started with putting things like egg in it, and little pieces of bread, her kibble, her meat. We feed raw, so and kibble. So we vary between them, and sometimes I used to put that in there as well. So that's how it started. And then when the lick mats came along, we started with those as well. And then I think we used to start with peanut butter again. Just put some peanut butter on it, and here you go. Have fun with it. And from there, it slowly started to evolve in what I do now.
And so can you tell us what you do now, how you do it, what kinds of products or food products that you use, and just tell us about your process, even like down to your prep and how you how you think it through.
Well, it starts with the meal, of course, because nowadays our enrichment revolves around their meal time. So it starts with what I'm going to give them as a meal. So that's either kibble or raw. And from there, I just look at what tastes are there, what I can add to make it different, make the textures different, make the scents different, all kinds of types of enrichment for them.
So you're focusing, one of your focuses is on variety, it sounds like, for interest.
Yeah. And also what I can get, what's
Okay.
in season, especially with vegetables and fruits and stuff. It varies depending on the season. My significant other hunts, so sometimes we give them the what's the name? What's left after slaughtering?
Leftovers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So necks and stuff, pieces of meat that we don't eat, the dogs get, and then I vary through that and put some vegetables on it, put some fruits on it, snacks. If there's mostly soft stuff like with raw meat, I like to put some chewy snacks on top of them as well, just to give them different textures to chew on.
Okay, so you're going for variety of, it sounds like texture, taste, and then just a variety of foods and nutrients depending on what you have and on what is available.
Yeah, and then lastly, looks. It's partly for me as well, because I just like to create pretty stuff with their food.
Yeah.
Don't get to play with my own food, so I get to play with the dog's food. I just really enjoy creating stuff with it and putting nice colors together and baking cookies in shapes according to whatever I feel like. We love watching movies and stuff, so I really like creating cookies for them in movie themes, for example. So their enrichment gets a little bit of a theme, which doesn't really add anything for them, but that's just for me because I like it.
Right. And so, so much of what we see when we repost mostly user-generated content on our Instagram, and the thing that we have been so amazed by and impressed by is the creativity that people bring to it. And that was something that has been surprising to us, is that to find out that, I mean, people are doing it for their animals, for really great care and enrichment for their animals, but people are also doing it for their own enrichment and creativity. And that's what you just spoke to, that you just really enjoy making a beautiful presentation with
Exactly.
the food.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, the girls eat it in 30 seconds or less.
For labs. So
Yeah, exactly. And I often spend 30 minutes creating it. But that's my enrichment. And they get the enrichment when I put it on the floor and they get to eat it and
Right.
sniff it and smell it. And
right.
so it's for everyone's enjoyment.
So I know that some people pre-prepare their like they may do like a week's worth of food or something like that. Do you do any pre-preparation, or are you usually doing yours just in the moment and then feeding?
In the moment, yeah. With 5 dogs, pre-preparation is not really an option.
Yeah.
I simply don't have the freezer space for it.
Right.
If I would have, I would probably. Sometimes I do. I like to put kibble in water, and then when it swells up,
Yeah.
and I put it inside toys, and I do freeze those.
Right.
So I do a little bit of meal prepping for them, but not often. No.
Okay. So so you said that you're looking for, you're using what's available. But do you have things that you rely on sort of as a base? Like it sounds like you do use some kibble. And then I'm also wondering, so are there things that you use super commonly? And then just like so for people who are maybe new to this, like what are the kinds of things that you offer to your dogs for food?
Well, apart from in kibble or raw, I always have I'm not sure how I pronounce it, kefir.
Sure, yeah.
Kefir.
Yeah.
And we call it kefir.
Yeah.
You always have that in the fridge. Greek yogurt. So I give them either Greek yogurt or kefir.
And you're using unsweetened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unsweetened, yeah. Human grade.
Yeah.
So it's just from the supermarket.
Yep.
Use it ourselves as well. But that's always there. And then usually some sort of fruit puree, and that's often baby food.
Oh.
You have those little pouches of baby food.
Yep.
Which contain 100% pureed fruit, basically.
Uh-huh.
Which is just as good for dogs as it is for babies. You do have to check the ingredients, of course. If there aren't any ingredients there that dogs shouldn't eat, usually with apple puree or blueberry, stuff like that. That's usually okay for dogs. So I use that almost always.
Mm-hmm.
And then often we use bee pollen.
Oh, bee pollen. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cottage cheese. They really love their cottage cheese. So that's something we have in the fridge almost always.
Uh-huh.
I think that's the main ingredients.
Yeah. And then do you use, like, what are there other sort of special things that you use? Maybe either like kinds of like fish or meats or other things that you might add?
Well, stuff from game. Leftovers. Sounds so. But basically, yeah, leftovers. We like to use everything. So sometimes we have like ribs or something that we don't eat, and the dogs get them.
Okay.
So I sometimes put that on the enrichment as well, and fish.
Yep. Do you have a certain kind of fish that you buy?
Sardines mostly.
What is it? I'm sorry.
Sardines mostly. Yeah.
And are those fresh or canned or both?
Fresh. Yeah.
And they're
sometimes mostly fresh from the freezer.
Right.
We buy them frozen.
Right. And then So when you say, and again, I'm just wanting to kind of clarify for people that might be new to this. So when you say that you use raw food, so you're buying it commercially, right?
Yeah.
It's commercial raw dog food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't prepare our own foods.
Right.
I'm a little bit scared to do that.
Yeah.
I know people who do it and who are really knowledgeable and do it really safely, but I'm really afraid to make mistakes and do something wrong for my dogs. So I really want them to have all the nutrients they need
Yep.
in their meals. So I buy commercial food, raw food.
Yeah. And then, so how I suppose maybe you've just learned it over time, but how do you determine the right amount of when you're feeding like this, the right amount of food for your dogs?
Yeah, it's by eye.
Okay.
I don't weigh anything. So it's really just by doing it, really.
Right.
At first, I started out really small with just the peanut butter and then adding something to it. And at first, especially, was a little bit big when she was younger. So with her, I really had to be careful of what I was feeding her.
Right.
So when she got a little bit more snacks, she would usually get a little bit less food.
Yeah.
But again, that would possibly create a nutrient problem in her diet. So I was really careful with that. And usually back then, I would just give less snacks.
Right. So I probably know the answer to this question since you have labs and we have a long history of having labs. And for anybody who hasn't had that breed, they, I think, are pretty exclusively highly food motivated. Is there anything that your dogs will not eat?
Well, the sardines I was just talking about, the little white one over there.
Uh-huh.
When I present her with a sardine, she looks at me as if I punched her in the face. She really goes like, no.
She's not doing that, but the other ones like it.
She doesn't want to eat it.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
And Scotty really isn't a real big fan of fruits.
Okay.
Now I've got the one over here. That's lying over here. Idun. She has. Don't know if you ever heard of it. But there's this gene in Labradors that makes them want to eat more.
Oh.
And it's. I think it's called the POMC gene, but I'm not sure. And it's a gene that prohibits them from feeling full.
Oh.
So they'll just keep eating. And she will eat literally everything. Even cardboard.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So with her, it's really anything I give her, she's happy with. But I really have to keep an eye on her to make sure she doesn't overeat.
Yeah. So do you do other kinds of enrichment besides food enrichment, or are you mostly focused on food-based?
Mostly food-based.
Yep.
But we do other kinds of enrichment. Things like olfactory enrichment, scent walks.
Yep.
We do scent work. So that's enriching for them.
Mm-hmm.
We do little searches with food, food puzzles, which is mostly food, of course, is again, but it's Labrador, so there's always food involved.
Yeah.
Apart from the olfactory, it's mostly allowing them to do what they like and what they love. And with gun dogs, it's working. So I think allowing them to do what they were born to do, is also enriching for certain breeds. And in case of the Labrador, it's retrieving. So working them, if it's either with a dummy or in the field,
right.
That's really enriching for them as well.
Right. So giving them opportunities to do, like sanctioned opportunities to do the things that are to them in the wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your Instagram, and just because for people, we're going to add, so we also do a video version of this on our YouTube channel, and we'll drop in some pictures from your Instagram because they're really, really beautiful. But for people who are just listening, can you just tell us a little bit about your Instagram and what you offer there?
Of course. Well, I started it in, I think it was 2022. And it was when I quit my shop. I used to have a web shop. And on that website, I would put blogs about enrichment and stuff, and also about training and all kinds of things. But I was going to quit it, and I didn't want the information on the blog to get lost. So that's when I decided to make Dog Blog, and create an Instagram um, account along with it. And I just treated it as my little space to put everything about my dogs and everything that I like about my dogs, and about my life with my dogs. And just write whatever I wanted without having to push products or
Yeah.
something. Just write whatever I like, whatever I love, um, instead of pushing everything that I had in my own store,
Right.
and not having the opportunity to talk about stuff that I didn't have in stock. Um, so it was really liberating to be able to just post anything. And I started doing enrichment, the elaborate enrichments, at around the same time. And it was fun. So I
And
just
so I
continued.
just want to say, so I mean, you are a photographer, a dog photographer, and your skill and talent with photography also shows up in your Instagram page. The photos are beautiful, of the photos
Thank you.
of beautiful of the of enrichment, on different trays and bowls and things, but also of your dogs and maybe other dogs. And I was wondering also if you could just tell us a little bit about your photography practice, and how in the world you do it. I mean, the photos are so amazing, and we'll put a link to your photo website, to all your information, but to your photo website in the show notes. And I really want to encourage people to go look, because the photos of the dogs, the photos are just beautiful, but they're also so joyful. There's so many of the dogs, running along or leaping, and I'm just amazed that you can catch the action shots, but then also that you can get them to be still. Just curious if you'll tell us a little bit about just your photography and how you do what you do.
Of course. Well, thank you very much. It's really nice to hear when people like my work. Um, I started photographing in 2011. Well, before that, I was a little girl when I started photography. But I started my business in 2011, and back then it was really everything. So I did weddings, families, babies, all kinds of animals. And after a few years, I came to the conclusion that I really don't like photographing people without pets. I decided to just drop all the weddings and families and babies and stuff, and focus fully on pet photography. And about 5 years ago, I decided to drop cats and horses and just focus fully on dog photography, because that's where my passion is. That's where my heart is. And it's so much fun. Like you said, the jumping and the action photography, but then also create a beautiful portrait for people to hang on the wall. It's um, yeah, it's awesome.
So do you have any little tricks of the trade of, how do you get them to sit still, or how do you, I don't know, I just find it amazing that they're just sitting there all attentive.
Having a lot of
What?
patience. Patience.
That's okay.
A lot of patience. Yeah. Snacks. Have snacks at the ready. And Photoshop skills
Okay.
with dogs that don't know how to sit that well. I mean, my own dogs are used to it, so they whenever I grab the camera, they're like this.
I suppose. That's great.
But other people's dogs don't usually aren't
Yeah.
usually that responsive to my camera.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just have to photograph them on leash, and have people keep the leash straight
Okay.
up behind the head, and then I could just Photoshop it out.
Ah, got it. Okay.
So the owner is like 50 centimeters away,
Yeah.
half
Okay.
a meter away, and just outside of the shot.
Okay.
And the leash is behind the head.
Okay.
And then when I'm done with my Photoshop magic, it looks like the dog was sitting there in a beautiful environment all by himself, just being pretty and obedient.
That's funny. Okay. Well, that's great. Well, that'll make a lot of us feel better about the behavior of our dogs when we're trying to take photographs of them.
Oh, yeah. They can be horrible.
I have two more questions for you. The first one is there anything, well, maybe it's three questions. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about you want people to know about enrichment, or sort of your favorite thing to pass on to people?
Well, it doesn't have to be really difficult. Sometimes people can be really overwhelmed.
Yeah.
When they look at other people's Instagram pages, and
Yeah.
they can be like, I can't do this. But enrichment can be just putting a bit of peanut butter and a bit of meat and some kibble and some stuff on a lick mat,
Right.
or inside a toy, and giving it to your dog.
Right.
Your dog doesn't see all the pretty
Yeah.
placements. The dog just enjoys the enrichment.
Excuse me. Sorry.
It's okay. So when you don't have that much time,
Right.
just put something together.
Right.
It doesn't have to be great for pictures or great for Instagram. Your dog will love you no matter what.
And I sneezed again. Sorry.
Bless you.
Appreciate that. I think that is really important, because see things on social media from people who've been doing it for a long time, and then particularly people who are so good at photographing it, it can feel like hard to live up. So it's good to be reminded that even if we do something that's really simple, it's still really enriching for our dogs.
Exactly.
So
And
my last question for you is, if you were a dog, what kind of dog would you be? I figured. I'm like, this is pretty strong preference here.
I think I'd be a Labrador.
Is there a way in which you are like a lab?
I love food.
Well, I so appreciate you being here with us today, and really appreciate all your information. And I just want to encourage people to check out Sanne's socials, and those will all be posted in the show notes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.